So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our video of Dashamsha chart. That's right. We are going to be covering Jupiter through houses of Dashamsha chart. And what is Dashamsha chart? Well, it is the chart that represents the obligation to society you have. It's what you're obligated to do. It is your work. Mainly, it is the work, career, but it can, again, anything you do outside of the world. What are you going to do? How the world's going to react? What's going to be your surrounding? That's the Dashamsha chart. And as always, if you do not know, if you have Jupiter in the ascendant in your Dashamsha, what other planetary placements you have, along with all your astrological details, for that, check out the links here. Check out my full astrological report, including my books, consultations, and link to my Academy, Magha Vedic Astrology Academy, where you will find my 2022 horoscope that I've made 2 parts into, and I may do something else as well. I just need to find the time. I can't announce it, because then I know I'll have to do it, because right now I need to find the time, the most valuable asset in the world, time. So, Jupiter in the ascendant of the Dashamsha. So now, most of you would probably will have a very strong idea what Jupiter does. But you also have no idea what Jupiter actually does do here. So let's cover what Jupiter does do that you may not know. What Jupiter will do here is this. It brings you up, takes you down, and then brings you up even higher. So for example, let's say you're starting your career in your 20s. You climb and you tend to find success. But what happens is suddenly a person, let's say, loses a job. Suddenly, let's say they're demoted. They leave their job because of some major issue that happens at work. And even though they were just not put it on this one pedestal, or they were going to, they just leave. But what happens is, when the graph goes down, it'll eventually bring you back up, not only to the position that it was at, it'll take you even higher. That's what this Jupiter will do. And especially with Jupiter, you will see you're gonna have to do things repeatedly in your life to achieve them, in your career and society. Whether you're trying to open up a nonprofit organization, whether you're trying to do work, whatever work you're doing, you'll fail several times. Simultaneously to what I just said, Jupiter does, you'll also do things repeatedly to achieve them. Now, on the other hand, Jupiter, as you know, just in the birth chart and the ascendant, is one of the basic things we know is that, wow, Jupiter in the ascendant will give you many children, right? This is one of those quotes. What in Dashamsha it does, you actually are able to attain many subordinates under you, meaning, yes, Jupiter has the capacity to take you into a position where you could be managing 100 people under you, 200 plus people under you. Now, of course, if in the 5th house of Dashamsha you've got some impact of Saturn or Ketu, fine. Instead of 100, you may have 20 then. You may have 5. But it gives you abundance of subordinates, which means what? What does this tell us? Does Jupiter holds the capacity? It's not 100%. It holds the capacity to make a person into a manager, because Jupiter is a manager. Remember, in astrology, especially if you study Gemini, Jupiter is the significator of management, finance, and even economics. Economics is also controlled by Venus as well. But Jupiter is a significator of management. In Dashamsha, most of the people will actually strive for the position of management, but also in D10 chart, even when you do business, let's say you're self-employed or you have your own company, more than the CEO chairman, you're kind of looked as an advisor, this counselor, this mentor. Fine, this mentor, which is you or someone else, has this title with them, but no, they're actually they're the wisdom behind all the things that are happening. They're the one who are like, okay, come to me when you need something. Now, specifically, one thing we do see here is that Jupiter, when it's in the ascendant, it helps you accumulate wealth only after you have dealt with failure. After you have dealt with failure, once you start rising in, that's when you will start gaining real wealth. Now, when I was saying early on that, Jupiter holds the capacity. It's not 100%, right? I said exactly that. Why am I saying this? Because look, we do not know what your other planetary position are. Especially what is the position of Saturn in the Dashamsha. How is the ascendant lord of the Dashamsha if it's not Jupiter? Because the Dashamsha ascendant will represent the initiation, the spark of the career, the beginning of a career. So you want to understand these dynamics. But there's certain subtle things that Jupiter will do. Even if, let's say, you're 65, you've always been in this middle management role, lower management role. Okay, fine. You are dealing with those subtle impacts of this Jupiter. You're not dealing with the 100% thing that I'm saying, because again, one position does things that I just explained to you, but then on the other hand, other things will also impact. So when you're looking at your Jupiter and Dashamsha for the first time, you need to know aspects, conjunction, and I even use the nakshatras in the Dashamsha chart as well. Okay. Now, one thing we also see with this Jupiter is that this is the type of Jupiter that a person does very well in controlling, handling of confidential information, secret information. Like, for example, I've seen a lot of times people who become lawyers. The birth chart shows they're going to be in law. The Dashamsha naturally has Jupiter in the ascendant. And so as a lawyer, what are you doing? You're dealing with constantly whatever comes in front of you is confidential. You can't even tell it to your spouse. Nobody. It's a client attorney privilege. It's a corporation client privilege. But that's where this Jupiter does very well in managing those things to a certain extent, because then again, we don't know what other planet could be, neutralizing that effect. Okay. So anyway, guys, this was my analysis of Jupiter and the ascendant of your Dashamsha chart. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below so you don't miss the type of videos. If you want to know where your Jupiter's placed, all your astrological details, for that, check out the links here. Otherwise, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.